2.5%.
Now do some revision. Why then?
Shall I go on Instagram?
This literally applies to you.
Social media is a place where young people often turn first for information seeking, for support, for peer connection, and to just involve themselves in everyday public activities. And they are essentially public digital spaces. At the same time, because of how these platforms have been allowed to be architected and certain features on the platforms, there are many facets of social media that can have a negative effect on youth mental health. And we've seen
Most of the debate that I've seen, particularly around the last few days, has been around so-called addictive design in social media. What we're actually talking about there is the things that are deliberately designed into products to keep you on that product, okay? Now, some people might call this stickiness. Some people might, some people might just say it's attractiveness, okay? Some people might call it addiction, okay? Now, I tend not to use the word addictive design. I do talk about structural characteristics that might contribute to somebody developing an addiction. So when it comes to things like social media, things like infinite scrolling, things like the algorithms that are used, algorithms work out very quickly what you like, and when they've worked out what you like, they give you more of that.
Sure. Okay.
You cannot become addicted to something unless you're constantly being rewarded for it. So, when the like button, that's a very simple little structural characteristic, but that like button, when you're an adolescent, that's a really important thing. When you put a selfie up or you put a video up or some kind of message, is that adolescents, they'll have competitions with each other, who's getting the most likes. And if you don't, or you could have a certain internal, if I don't get more than this number of likes, then, I'm obviously a failure or whatever. Those like buttons give you those rewards.
Over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, there have been advances in a number of these design techniques. So I would say, the first cluster of ideas started with realizing that if we minimize the number of choices that users make in their decisions about whether to continue to engage with us, the easier it will be for them to continue to remain. So previously, websites used to have some endpoint, and you would have to press the next page to go to the next page. But then social media companies realized, well, why don't we just keep the pages scrolling, what they call an infinite scroll, such that you actually never get to the bottom of it and you never need to press next, and you will continue to be shown content for however long you continue to use that platform.
The signal's horrible here.
It's really scary, miss.
Yeah, I'm a bit scared.
Send back to me.
The content that we find most engaging need not perfectly correspond with the set of people who we are friends or connected with. In fact, the people who we are friends and connected with, they might share some interests with us. Some of the things that they might do might be engaging to us, but it's not going to be a sort of perfect overlap. And furthermore, because these companies want to sort of scale their reach, there's a limit to how much content we'll find engaging from the set of people who are in our network. And also, if we just go with the people in our network, then it'll just get dominated by the people who post the most content. And once social media companies realize, well, why don't we go from a social graph approach to a prediction approach, where the entirety of our AI apparatus is aimed at being able to predict what content will people click on most, then the fact of it being social media in some ways drops out. It becomes engagement media.
Halt mal dein Handy, Theo, halt dein Handy an Julia.
Das war mein letztes
Short form content in some ways has transformed how social media operates. It's the kind of approach that, first probably was famously brought forth by TikTok, but now you see short form content, short form video content appearing in a wide range of different technology companies. And part of what was transformative about short form content was that it even further reduced the inertia to be able to engage with this content. So if there's a video in the past, you might have had to turn your phone in order to watch it full screen. But now what the short form video content does is that it's captured in a way where you can just look at it on your phone and keep swiping in a certain direction, where the only action you need to take is just a swipe if you want to go to the next thing. Now, notifications are one of the most insidious ways in which it is able to continue to engage us. Because we might get a notification that's designed, the point of it is to interrupt you from what you are doing. The very point of it is to draw your attention away from whatever it was paying attention to toward that notification. And often when we see these notifications, we'll think, oh, it just seems like this one little post got liked or this one little comment. But as soon as you click on that notification, suddenly you're exposed to all of the other things on the social media platform. You'll very rarely just be shown what the notified content involves. In fact,
age gating, which is a very popular policy recommendation, ban social media for youth under 16 or 18 or whatnot, as well as things like putting warning signs after spending a certain number of hours on an app. I don't think these measures are designed to succeed, unfortunately. First of all, age gating is incredibly hard to enforce. And I don't think per, the outcomes of the Australian ban, that those efforts have been successful to date. Young people are savvy. They are digital natives. They will figure out ways around bans to use social media platforms, probably in ways that are less regulatable and more dangerous than those that are currently available to them. Second of all, I think bans again sidestep the issue of requiring these companies to make the platform safe. It allows them to say, oh, we're just going to not allow young people into these public digital spaces, rather than making really challenging and potentially costly changes to how these platforms operate and are built. I essentially think it gives them a free pass to rely purely on age gating and social media bans.
Keep walking. Mark, are you excited for your test, buddy?
So I do think that the ruling that we've seen is it's not going to be the first. You're going to see, let's say, lots of either class action suits and suits by individuals. This has set the precedent now. Social media operators cannot turn around and say that we have not designed things into our products to keep people on there.
Here are a few science-backed steps that I think companies can take to make sure their platforms aren't just minimizing harm, but actually protecting and promoting youth well-being. First, I think entirely recalibrating how algorithms operate to make sure that youth aren't automatically spiraled into harmful content, triggering content, such as live streams of suicide attempts. This should not even be a question as to whether youth are potentially seeing this kind of content. Having better enforcement strategies for reducing things like cyber hate and cyberbullying is another really important way that these platforms can reduce the potential harms to their young users. And certainly things like imposing limits on how long, or reminders to maybe check in with themselves as they use these platforms are important as well. Linking users to opportunities to build digital literacy skills is also something the platforms might do to increase youth's awareness of the possible harms and dangers of social media platforms and how they can take steps to avoid them, even though ultimately I do believe the onus should be on the companies to create safe spaces.